If you just hate kids, read this. Hi and welcome back to my booktube channel. My name is Sam and today we are following on with the Japan themes in this video, like I said in the previous one. Today I'm going to give you my top 10 Japanese literature recommendations. So yeah, let's just dive straight into it. Leave a like if you're excited, and leave a comment, try and guess some that I'm going to recommend, or just leave some of your own recommendations here. Don't necessarily have to be Japanese literature, that's just what I'm focusing this video on. Let me know some Spanish, because I immediately jumped to Spanish because I'm reading Tender is the Flesh. But leave anything, any translated fiction. I would love recommendations. So not just Japanese, but if you want to leave some Japanese ones as well, leave them in the comment. But yeah, let's get straight into the video. So, I was kind of debating whether to start with my favourite Japanese novel or whether to wait and leave that till the end. And I think I'm going to leave it to the end. So if you want to see my all-time favourite translated fiction from Japanese, make sure to stay around till the very end. But we're going to start off with one that I'm very happy about. I've been seeing on social media quite a lot. And I'm very glad that it's actually getting some traction. It's nice to see some good books get recommended on Instagram and BookTok and stuff like that. So I'm just going to go straight into it. That is Before the Coffee Gets Cold, and you probably recognise this cover because it is iconic. It's so beautiful, by Toshikazu Kawaguchi. Now, this one is about a cafe where you can travel back in time and visit ones that you've lost, or people you've lost, not ones you've lost. But you can go back and visit people you've lost, but the cafe has such strict rules that a lot of people are like, what's the point in this? What's the point in going back in time? Because some of the rules that you learn straight away are anything you do in the past doesn't affect the future. You can only stay in the past for as long as your coffee is warm, so as soon as it goes cold you need to drink it, otherwise you'll face some consequences. And you can only visit people that have also been to the cafe, and this cafe is in Tokyo, and we're in Tokyo for the first 2 books, so I've seen this one a lot. I've not seen anyone show the sequels, so I hope people do know that there are more to the series. But the sequel is called Before the Coffee Gets Cold, Tales from the Cafe. It has a lovely yellow cover. This one definitely made me cry at the end, like it has such a hard story. But this is the sequel, and these 2 take place in the Tokyo cafe, and then we find out in the most recent 3rd book that there is another cafe, which I won't tell you why or how that comes to be, but just a bit of a teaser so you're not like, oh, we're in Tokyo all the time, let's see a bit more. But yeah, this one takes place in another cafe, but with the same people. And this one is called Before Your Memory Fades. So these are the 3 that have been translated so far. The 3 books are told in kind of like short story kind of aspects. So you get each chapter follows a different person and how they travel to the past, or maybe some other ways this time travel is used. But we do have a thread through narrative of the cafe staff, who also have their own problems and kind of weave in and out the story as well, which is so well done. You get so attached, and I love that in the later books they have to put like character connections so you can kind of remember who does what and who's related to who and who's in love with who, because it gets kind of a little bit complicated at times, because you're like, wait, what's happening, because of the time travel aspect of things. But yeah, I highly recommend these 3 books. This one I've seen a lot online. These 2 I've not seen much of, so please read the sequels. There's a 4th one on the way that has a pink cover, and I think there's 5 books in the series, and I say that because when I was in Japan, okay, I promised some footage from the Japan bookshops, which I'll play at the end, I think. But in Japan, I bought the Japanese copies of 2 of them. I could only find these 2. And I think this is the 1st one, and this one is the 5th one, I think, purely just because it says number 5, which I think is a bit of a giveaway. But we have the 5th book and the 1st book. So that means there's at least 2 more books. I can't count. I'm an English student, not a maths student. But at least 2 more books to be translated at least then. And we haven't seen this cover, which is really cool, but also kind of sickening. I don't know if I like the green. But yeah, I bought the Japanese original editions, and it's so interesting. They read from the top down, so it's very interesting to see that. Yeah, I got these. I just thought I'd show them along with the books. Anyway, into the next recommendation. So for this next recommendation, I'm going to follow along with that kind of magical realism feeling, but into a bit more of an easier concept, a bit more of a fun, joyful ride that's not as emotionally tolling as those 3 books. And that one is going to be The Cat Who Saved Books by, where's the name? Suzuki Natsukawa. Now this one, initially I thought when I saw this in Waterstones, it started to appear in like these big piles near the till and on the tables. I was like, oh, it kind of looks like a kid's book. But then my mum bought it me for Christmas, and I actually realised it was a translated fiction. I was like, oh, I've been stupid and been judging this book by its cover, because it just, I don't know, it just gives off kids' book vibes, maybe because it's so small and the hardback doesn't really help it, but it's not. It's translated fiction. With younger elements as well. But this one follows the main character, who I've forgotten the name of. What's the main character called? Rintaro is his name. Rintaro lived with his grandfather, and they had this bookshop in this small town, but his grandfather has recently passed away, and now he has to go and move to live with his aunt, and he's kind of saying bye to this bookstore, which he loves, but he's kind of lost that enjoyment of books because his father has passed. So one day, suddenly, while he's closing up the shop, this talking cat arrives. This talking ginger cat arrives, and he's like, yo, I'm gonna take you on a magical journey, just like the Christmas Carol, and show you the love that books can bring and bring into your life, and how books I can't speak. How books mean so much and do so much for the people that read them and the people that love them and enjoy them. And this cat kind of acts as a way to bring back Rintaro's love for books and show him that just because his grandfather has died and this was a hobby that they had together, reading and running the store, it doesn't mean that has to die with his grandfather, which is such a sweet story. It is definitely a lot more lighter than the previous recommendation and some of the other ones I have on this list. So if you want a light, cozy, talking cat, book-loving adventure, check out The Cat Who Saves Books. Now, also including a cat, but in totally different ways, I'm going to recommend a Japanese classic, which is very different from what I've recommended so far, and the only one on this list. But that is going to be one I read the other year. I do have a review on my Instagram if you want to check that out. But that is The Sailor Who Fell from Grace with the Sea by, I always look at this and think this is the author name, but no, that's the publisher. The author name is on the side for some reason. But Yukio Mishima is the author of this, and obviously got the Great Wave artwork on the front. I love a good Great Wave work. But yeah, this one is a classic, originally published in 1966. Originally published 1963. I was 3 years out, okay. But this one follows kind of a family unit. So we have a son who's kind of messed up, like he's kind of a psychopath. But we have the son and his mother. The father is out of the picture, and one day the mother falls in love with this sailor, and we kind of see their relationship, but it's kind of hindered because this boy is just so... He's something. He is something. For example, he has a spy hole into his mother's bedroom. Like, this book is just messy and weird and scary and just... but yeah, the sailor is trying to form a like stepdaddy kind of relationship with the son and trying to bring this family unit back together after the father's obviously out and the son's a bit of a weirdo and the mum's a bit like, oh, I just want love. Please just let me love someone, son. Stop being such a weirdo. But yeah, it's such a twisted, dark classic. I've never read anything like this, and I loved it. There are times when the narrative kind of drags and it gets a bit too descriptive, but the highs are high and the lows are lows. Like, oh my god, I could cry. And the ending... You're going to have to read this. I highly recommend this. Even if you're not a massive fan of classics, please check this out. It's not even that long, so you're not even committing to too much. Just try it, please. The next one I'm going to also link to that twisted kind of childish nature that you see in horror movies. All the creepy children are supposed to be in the horror movies, but now they're in the literature. But yeah, following on from that, I'm going to recommend Haven. I always say Haven. I don't know why. It's Heaven by Miko Kawakami. Now, you probably heard of Kawakami before. She wrote Breast and Eggs, and All the Lovers in the Night, which I really want to read both of those, but I haven't yet. But this is one of her shorter novels, and this one follows two school children who are severely bullied. And like, when I say bully, I mean like physically beaten, insulted. They make them do the most horrid things. Like, I hate these children. It's so twisted, so dark, and we kind of see these two severely bullied students come together and kind of bond over the relationship of being bullied. But then we start to question, is that a healthy relationship to have with someone? Is it a good foundation for a friendship if you're bonding over being bullied? And I see that, and the questions of identity and looks. A big question that the main character has is, should he get his eye fixed? Will that get rid of the bullying? Will that help him in the future? And it's kind of this hard debate with himself, whether to change this aspect of himself that makes him him. It's just so interesting, and so much is brought into this small book, and it's just so dark and so twisted, and I highly recommend it if you are into that. But if you want like fluffy recommendations, wait for some of the later ones, because this might not be for you. But if you are, check this out. So those two are very dark recommendations with some very dark themes and moments in them. So I'm going to go into a bit more of a lighter, happier, more joyfully. It still has its sad moments, but it's a bit more joyful and a bit more fun and whimsical. But that is The Miracles of the Namiya General Store by Keigo Higashino. And this one, I don't know why I'm looking at the back and not you, but this one is about, it's kind of similar to Before the Coffee Gets Cold. So if you like that one, check this one out. If you like this one, check Before the Coffee Gets Cold out. But this one follows, initially, it's also broken up, like Before the Coffee Gets Cold, it's broken up into different POVs and aspects, but it plays around with the aspect of time travel. And unlike Before the Coffee Gets Cold, I'm going to stop referencing that one now, but just like that one, but unlike that one, this one, things that you say to the past can influence the future, which I'll just leave there. So it's a bit more, we need to be careful what we're saying in the past and the thing. But basically, this book follows three teenagers who are running from the police at the start of this novel, and they hide in this seemingly abandoned convenience store. And whilst they're hiding, a letter comes through the front door, and when they go to look at it, it's addressed from the past. It's from someone in the past asking for advice from a Mr. Namiya. Suspicious. So they soon figure out that they can commune with the past, and it's all about people from the past asking for advice, and these boys are put in a position where they have to actually start to learn how to advise people to make better decisions when themselves are currently in a very bad predicament of being thieves and running from the police. They have to come to terms with, oh, we must reflect on ourselves to help other people. It's a very interesting concept, and a bit of a longer read. It's a little bit chunkier, but yeah, I highly recommend this. There's different POVs from some things from people affected by the from their advice, or people that are affected by the people that got the advice in these books. It's just, yeah, it's a really good novel. Highly recommend this. Following on with that idea of I was going to say forgetfulness, but there was no forgetfulness in that one. I just wanted to make a link to this next book. But this next book I actually did a video on. I did a reading vlog. So that might give you a hint, but that is The Memory Police by Yoko Ogawa. And this one follows an island in Japan where things just kind of fall out of the public consciousness. So one day you'll wake up and bells would have disappeared, and every bell on the island, nobody knows what they are anymore. And they just have to throw them into the ocean. They have to just let them go, destroy them. What use do they have? Who knows what they are? And there's obviously the Memory Police, which is the title of the novel, enforce that and make sure things are forgotten. So we follow a main character who finds herself in a position where she finds someone that doesn't forget. This person remembers everything that is forgotten. So she kind of has to hide him from the Memory Police. It's very reminiscent of George Orwell's 1984, with the Memory Police obviously being the most obvious connection. But yeah, things start to escalate, not just bells, ribbons and stuff disappear. Sometimes we see bigger things disappear, more important things, more things that you think, how can you live without that? So yeah, it's a very interesting novel. If you want to check out my full thoughts on this, I have a whole video about it. Just scroll through my channel, you'll find it, or I'll leave it in the description. But yeah, I highly recommend this. Now we're down to our last four, so we'll try and pick this up because I don't know how long this video is. But the next one I'm going to recommend is, oh, here's where I was going to do the connection of memory loss. This next one is very much about the neglect faced by a population within Japan, a minority group in Japan that is kind of out of public consciousness now. No one really talks about it, no one really kind of explores that past that they had, and that is Sweet Bean Paste by Dorian Sukagawa. Now this one talks about the leprosy epidemic in Japan and how people with suffering from leprosy but also recovering from leprosy were kind of hidden away. They were disgusting to the society. They were not seen as human. They were subpar. And this one kind of follows the ideas and themes of that and discusses that within this story of a sweet bean paste dorayaki, is that what they're called? I can't remember, but the pancakes with the sweet bean paste filler in. There's a maker of those. He runs his shop. He's just trying to pay off his debts. He's not really invested. And one day an old lady comes and answers his help wanted sign, and she's like, well, you said age wasn't a problem. And he kind of has, so there's a cat across the road. It's Polly. She's so cute. But yeah, she answers the thing, and we see them bond, and there's the main characters there. But yeah, I don't really know what to say. It's quite a quick read. It's like, it's very small writing. It's very big writing. Quite a quick read. I recommend this one. It does have its sad moments. It has its moments of contemplating life. I have a review on it. I have a review on quite a lot of these, to be fair. But yeah, it's just a cute little read, and it's very informative on the leprosy kind of side of history in Japan, which is not something I thought I would wanted to learn about or even considered learning about, but I'm glad I read this and I'm a bit more informed on that. Yeah, so I recommend this one if you want to know a bit more about leprosy in Japan or just want a sweet tale of three people coming together and immersing themselves in life. Now, the next one is also about kind of an underlooked part of society. It's not stated in the novel, but I've seen quite a lot of people discussing this book as autistic coded and such, which obviously is never stated in the book. I can't remember. I don't think it is. But a lot of people have read it that way, so I'm just saying that. But yeah, this one is Convenience Store Woman by Sayaka Murati. Now, her other novels, I'm so excited to read. There's Life Ceremony and Earthlings, and she just has the most wild concepts. Like Earthlings, it's about a girl that thinks she's an alien, like different stuff like that. It's wildest content. But this one is one of her shorter novels, and this follows someone who works at a convenience store and kind of is just living life repetitively, or their whole life becomes consumed by their job and their work, and it's just about that. So it's a commentary on the work ethic in Japan and kind of hard separation between work-life balance and social life balance. There isn't really that distinguishable line. They do very much find themselves stuck in their work. So I think that's what this is commentary of. But like I said, a lot of people read this as autistic coded, which it very much could be. So yeah, I recommend Convenience Store Woman, and I can't wait to read Murati's other work, and I'll let you know my thoughts on this when I do. Now we're getting to the very end. We've got 2 recommendations left, so let's get straight into it. The Guest Cat by Takeshi Hirade. Now this Guest Cat is, of course I had to have more cat novels in this, but like there's still quite a few that I want to read, which for a different video. But The Guest Cat follows a couple who are kind of struggling. They're living in kind of the back house of this bigger house, and they are kind of just like 2 struggling artists in different senses, like writing and stuff. And this cat just comes into their life, and we kind of see how the cat affects their relationship, their lives, how they think of each other and think of the world around them. And things happen. Of course they do. And we see stuff. I don't really know what to say. without spoiling it, it's a very short novel with a very simple premise, but it's just so heartbreaking and so like happy at times, and it's just, yeah, I recommend this one. Now, the final recommendation, my favourite translated fiction novel that I've read so far. I'm not going to put it down as my favourite of all time because I might read one I love better. But out of the ones I've shown you today and the ones still on my shelf, this one is my favourite. And if you were going to read any of these books, read this one. Read this one. It is my favourite. But that is Battle Royale by Koshin Takami. And this book is very intimidating. It's a brick. I think it has, how many pages does it have? Over 600 pages. It's very intimidating, but I love this book so much. And I only got it the other year. My best friend, who has a YouTube channel, I'm going to link that down below. She has an art YouTube, and I want you to go over and encourage her to upload more because she's an amazing artist. But yeah, she bought me this. I read it immediately and I just fell in love. It was so good. I loved it so much. But basically, this is the book that The Hunger Games was accused of copying. Now, I've already stated in prior videos where I've discussed this book, I don't necessarily agree with those accusations. The two are very much different. They have similar concepts, but they're very much different. But basically, in this one, we follow a dystopian Japan where the government kind of picks the worst ranking class, and they kind of have a lottery between the worst classes, and the class of school kids get sent to an arena / island where they have to fight to the death until only one of them is left as kind of like an example of this authoritarian thing. Now in this one we kind of see, I don't want to say too much because I don't want to spoil it, but we see a lot of stuff and there's a lot of like friendships that are broken, relationships that form, there's a lot of tension, there's a lot of mistrust, there's definitely one of the main characters you're constantly questioning, can we trust you? Are you just, I definitely fluctuated, like initially I was like, I don't trust this guy at all, I don't trust them, don't trust them, and then you kind of like, maybe we should trust you, and they're like, no we shouldn't, yeah we should, no we shouldn't, and it's very good at building tension. And there are some bits that maybe are a bit dated. There is like one gay character who I didn't really like the representation of him, but it was only a small section, so I'm willing to overlook it. My opinion, if you don't, you don't. But it wasn't too bad. It was just a bit like, but yeah, that was probably my only issue about this. But yeah, if I could read 5 more novels about this, I would, because I'm so invested. I love this book so much. Please read it. I highly recommend this. This is the remastered edition. I don't know what the previous one has any different. I just guess this is a different translation. Yeah, I highly recommend Battle Royale because it's so good, especially if you're a fan of the Hunger Games. Like, if you love the Hunger Games, you're gonna love this one. So check it out. Highly check it out. And also, if you just like dystopian future novels, authoritarian government novels, this one's for you. It's very much good for you. And if you just hate kids, read this. You hate kids, read it, and they'll all die. Maybe. Or maybe they'll live. I'm just kind of going on. But yeah, read Battle Royale. These are the other 2 books that I bought in Japan. I bought Daisy Jones and the Six in the Japanese edition because it was the only Taylor Jenkins read I recognised. I couldn't really understand their sorting system. There was like so many different books next to each other. It was weird. Like there was this here and then like other books that I would have put with this completely somewhere else. So I didn't really know. But I recognised this one. It's Daisy Jones and the Six. And yeah, it's just a Japanese edition. I really like the cover and I wanted it in my collection. Then I have The Starless Sea, which is a book I have not read, but I love the cover very, very much. And I wanted it front facing on my bookshelves, but I recently reordered them, bookshelf tour coming, and I didn't have space. But when I have bigger bookshelves, I will display this book because it is beautiful. But here we are. Look how beautiful that is. Look how beautiful it is. It's like a bookshelf and he's walking into a door through it and there's all like spacey kind of stuff and it's just very pretty. And it's hardback as well. Yeah, they're the 2 books that I bought in these Japanese bookshops that I'm going to show you now before the video ends. So the first bookshop I saw was in Tokyo, and I was just popping in to say I thought it was very interesting that they had these miniature models for one thing, which is so cool. I really wanted that chair. But yeah, in the English sections they had both a mixture of English like covers and US covers, so it was really fun to try and find some cool US covers that I couldn't get at home. But yeah, I did buy a couple of Japanese books here as well, which is why I got all of the ones I showed you in this video actually, so yeah. The actual biggest bookstore I visited whilst in Japan was this one in Kyoto, so definitely check it out if you're a book fan. Basically, the two basement floors of this retail shop are dedicated to this bookshop, and the half of the second floor is basically just English books, and there's so much to choose from. Highly recommend it. I literally went 3 times because I had to just browse and enjoy it. And whilst in this one, I did go against the book buy ban, but honestly I don't think buying books on holidays counts towards book buy bans because that's just not fair. So I bought the first 8 volumes of Spy Family here because I saw Monique from the Roomies Digest talk about it, and I just had to read it, and obviously I was impulsive and bought all of them. One thing I hated though was the Colleen Hoover books were in the young adult section. Like, what the hell, they should not be there. Anyway, yeah, that was the bookshop in Kyoto. Lastly, in Osaka, I found 2 bookstores. There was this one, which was like a combination of the 2 previous bookstores we went to. They must be big brands that have shared the store apparently. But they had a half price section with all these cool books, and then obviously just a nice selection. And then I went to another one which was in like a train station underground, and it was this huge bookstore with a nice little section for English books. And yeah, I got the 9th volume of Spy Family from this one. So yeah, enjoy the clips. So, they're the bookshops in Japan. There was Tokyo, Kyoto and Osaka. Of course, I'm a bookworm. I'm gonna find my way to some bookshops, even if I don't even speak the language. I just had to find bookshops because how could I not? I would be ashamed of myself if I did not at least visit bookstores while I was in a different country. Like, you have to buy a souvenir book from each country you go to, or is that just me? But yeah, they're the bookstores. I hope you enjoyed the clips. I hope you enjoyed the recommendations. Leave a like if you did, and comment, tell me your recommendations, or just let me know your thoughts on how the bookshops looked, if you're jealous, or if you've ever been to any of them, let me know in the comments. Yeah, and subscribe. Turn the notification bell on if you want to know when I post. I'm very sporadic. Sometimes I'll post like 3 videos at a time, and sometimes I won't post for a month. So definitely need that bell on to let you know when I'm about to post. But yes, I hope you enjoyed this video. Bye!